On the broadcast tonight, the main opposition accepts President Park Geun-hye's proposal for three-way talks between the president and the leaders of the ruling and opposition parties. Could the move pave way for ending the parliamentary deadlock centering on the nation's spy agency? Washington scolds Pyongyang over reports indicating that the reclusive state may have started a plutonium-producing nuclear reactor, emphasizing that if it were true, it would be a clear violation of UN Security Council resolutions. And U.S. and Russia talks on Syria's chemical arsenal begin on a tense note in Geneva as Damascus formally applies to join a global poison gas ban. And U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry underscores that military force may still be necessary if diplomacy fails. Early edition begins now. It is 5 a.m. in New York, noon in Damascus, and 6 on a Friday evening here in Seoul. Welcome to Early Edition at 6. I'm Moon Gun-young.
And I'm Daniel Chen. Thank you for joining us. We begin this Friday evening, with the political landscape in Korea.
Right, Korea's main opposition Democratic Party has decided, after sleeping on it, to accept President Park Geun-hye's proposal for talks between herself and the leaders of the rival parties at the National Assembly next Monday.
And as our political correspondent Kim Hyun-ji reports, the opposition party has a very specific agenda for its talks with the Korean leader.
The Democratic Party's decision to accept President Park's proposal for talks was reached during a closed-door meeting of the party leadership Friday morning. As a result, party leader Kim Han-gil and his ruling party counterpart Hwang Woo-yeol will sit down for talks with the president at the National Assembly next Monday. On Thursday, President Park said she wanted to meet with the leaders of the ruling and the main opposition parties to address any concerns the two parties may have. She also said she would like to brief the National Assembly Speaker and Vice Speakers, as well as the leadership of the rival parties, on the success of her recent overseas trips to Russia and Vietnam, before meeting separately with the two party leaders alone. This marks the first time a sitting president has proposed visiting the National Assembly for a meeting with the leaders of the rival parties or for a briefing on a diplomatic tour. The Democratic Party wants to put the top and tail reform of the country's spy agency on top of the agenda for its talks with the president. The opposition party believes the National Intelligence Service systematically meddled in last year's presidential election, which it says is an outright violation of Korea's constitution. Party leader Kim Han-gil says President Park should show a willingness to put an end to the spy agency's interference in political affairs once and for all. Vast bipartisan differences over the role of the National Intelligence Service have paralyzed parliamentary operations for weeks, putting on the back burner urgent issues like next year's budget and measures aimed at reversing a slowing domestic economy. The presidential office has refrained from commenting on the Democratic Party's ideas about the agenda for Monday's talks. The ruling Century Party, meanwhile, says nothing should be left off of the agenda, including the pending livelihood issues, as well as the reform of the spy agency. Kim Hyun-ji, Arirang News.
The nation's top prosecutor said on Friday that he will resign from his post over claims that he has an illegitimate son. Choi Dong-wook once again denied the allegations and said he hoped that similar scandals that make it hard for officials to do their jobs do not happen again. The Joseonilbo newspaper reported last week that Choi had fathered a child out of wedlock back in 2002. Now, his offer to resign came after the Justice Minister ordered an investigation into the allegations surrounding him. This is the first time such an investigation has been ordered against the country's top prosecutor. Choi took office in April after his predecessor resigned over a string of high-profile scandals within the organization.
The two Koreas sat down for another round of talks on Friday to hammer out the final details on Monday's scheduled opening for the Kaesong Industrial Complex. Friday's talks focus on securing legal rights for South Korean personnel in the event they are charged with a crime while working in the north. As part of the agreement to reopen Kaesong, South Korea has been asking for assurances that authorities will be given access to South Korean workers during any criminal investigation. In 2009, a South Korean worker was detained in the north for more than 130 days without being allowed to meet with South Korean officials. If the two Koreas come to an agreement on the matter, the right to legal aid is expected to be a part of future negotiations on resuming tours to the North Korean tourist resort of Mount Kumgang. And the two Koreas have moved one step closer to holding reunions of families separated by the Korean War later this month. On Friday, they exchanged lists of people who are available to meet with their long-lost loved ones on the other side of the DMZ. Our Kim Yeon-bin has the latest.
The two Koreas have exchanged a list of surviving separated family members that are available to take part in reunions later this month. It's the next step in the process to reuniting families separated by the Korean War. Late last month, the South Korean Red Cross gave the North a list of 250 North Koreans they wanted located for the reunions. The North in turn asked the South to locate 200 South Koreans who have surviving family members in the North. Of that total, the Korean National Red Cross in the South was able to find 149 people. The next step following today's exchange will be the final confirmation of those who will take part in the reunions later this month. The two sides plan to exchange their final list of 100 people each on Monday. Priority will be placed on age and direct family membership. Those who are chosen will be allowed to have 5 relatives accompany them during the reunions, which are scheduled to take place at the North's Mount Kumgang Resort from September 25th through the 30th. Seoul and Pyongyang held their first reunions back in 1985, and since then about 3,800 families have been reunited. There are still issues the two Koreas need to come to an agreement on before the next round of reunions can take place. The North has yet to agree on using 2 hotels designated by the South as lodging for South Korean citizens.
Our government's stance is to use the 2 hotels in the north, but Pyongyang has yet to respond. We are preparing as if the designated hotels will be used.
The Ministry of Unification said that 97 technicians are currently at the Mount Kumgang Resort in the north to refurbish facilities ahead of the meetings. Kim Yeon-bin, Arirang News.
Members of the six-party talks received reports indicating North Korea may have restarted its plutonium-producing Yongbyon reactor. The United States has stressed that if the reports prove to be true, Pyongyang's move would violate a number of its international obligations. Arirang's Foreign Affairs correspondent Hwang Sung-hee reports.
Washington said Thursday it would be a very serious matter if North Korea had really restarted its research reactor at the Yongbyon nuclear complex. Recent satellite imagery suggests a 5-megawatt plutonium reactor at the facility may be back in action. The reactor is capable of producing 6 kilograms of plutonium a year that can be used for making nuclear weapons. U.S. Chief Nuclear Envoy Glyn Davis said that if the reports are true, North Korea is violating its international obligations.
It would violate a series of UN Security Council resolutions. It flies in the face of North Korea's own commitments and promises they've made over the years.
The Yongbyon reactor has been sitting idle since 2007, and the North had destroyed its cooling tower 5 years ago as one of confidence-building steps in six-party denuclearization talks involving the two Koreas, the U.S., China, Japan, and Russia. What is confusing is that these latest reports come as Pyongyang appears to be showing a willingness to return to dialogue. North Korea's closest ally, China, noted the reports and reiterated its dedication to see the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula.
China has always dedicated itself to maintaining peace and stability on the Korean peninsula and to enacting its denuclearization. This is in the interest of all sides and requires the collaborative efforts of all sides.
Quoting a diplomatic source, Russia's Interfax news agency said the nuclear reactor, which was built in the 1950s, is in a nightmarish state and warned of dire consequences if it was restarted. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN's nuclear watchdog, said it's following the reports, but added it doesn't yet have a clear understanding of the situation. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life.
Plans to visit expert.
Talking with you on air and online. connecting you with heroes and experts to help you understand the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best with Moon Gun-young and Daniel Che on Early Edition at 6.
Now shifting gears to the economy, Korean import prices rose by 2 points. And to the latest on the Syrian crisis, Damascus has submitted a document to the United Nations to join an international convention on chemical weapons control. Now, this comes as the U.S. and Russia begin talks on the Moscow-led plan to see Syria turn in its chemical arms. Arirang News Kim Young-gil reports.
It looks as though the Russian-backed plan to put Syria's chemical weapons under international control is making headway. The UN announced Thursday that it received documents from the Syrian government asking it to join the Chemical Weapons Convention.
In the past few hours, we have received a document from the government of Syria, which is being translated, which is to be an accession document concerning the Chemical Weapons Convention.
If Syria joins the Chemical Weapons Convention, then it will become one of only 7 countries outside the International Convention to outlaw stockpiling chemical weapons. Speaking to Russian state TV Thursday, President Assad said Damascus was ready to give up its chemical weapons.
Of course, in the next several days, Syria will send an appeal to the United Nations and to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. And this appeal will contain technical information which is needed in order to sign the agreement.
The Syrian president said Russia would play a key role in the process. Washington remains skeptical, with U.S. officials describing Russia's plan as doable but difficult. Regarding the probe into the chemical weapons attack that sparked the crisis, one Australian diplomat said there was a good chance the chief UN investigator's report on whether sarin gas was used or not would come out next Monday.
We expect to receive it sooner rather than later, but I have no precise timetable yet. My understanding is Dr. Selstrom and his team need to finalize their work.
According to the Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency Friday, UN investigators have submitted a report to the 5 permanent members of the Security Council with information on chemical weapons usage in the Syrian conflict. Meanwhile, the Russian and U.S. foreign ministers have begun their crucial meeting in Geneva to discuss Russia's proposal. Speaking before the talks, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the resolution of the chemical weapons issue would make any military strike by the United States unnecessary. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said he hoped diplomacy could prevent military action. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
With the U.S. Federal Reserve poised to start winding down its massive stimulus program soon, economic policymakers in Korea are trying to lessen fears about sudden capital outflows. Capital flight is already being seen in some emerging economies, but Korea is benefiting as investors see it as a safer bet than other countries. Our Kim Ji-yeon files us this report.
Foreign investors are buying Korean shares in bulk, leading to an influx of foreign capital into the country. Buoyed by foreign buying and receding geopolitical concerns, Korea's benchmark Kospi finished above the 2,000 mark Thursday for the first time in 3 months. Foreign investors made net purchases of $365 million on Friday, pushing the total over the past 16 trading days to $7.5 billion. The trend started in July when foreign investors scooped up Korean stocks to the tune of $750 million. The total shot up to $2.2 billion in August, the highest monthly net foreign purchasing mark in more than 2.5 years. The Financial Supervisory Service attributes last month's surge to strong buying by U.S. investors. As another factor, analysts point to the fact that foreign investors began pulling out of emerging economies in August. According to data by Hyundai Securities, as Korea was recording more than $2 billion in net foreign purchases last month, Taiwan was seeing around $1.5 billion of net foreign capital flight. Goldman Sachs said the global economy seems to be steadily recovering, and countries like Korea and China should benefit the most from their rosier outlook. It also said foreign purchases will be limited in countries with weak currencies, such as India, Indonesia, and Thailand. Meanwhile, Korea-based Hanyang Securities Company says the purchasing trend is expected to continue since incoming U.S. capital is mainly based on long-term funds. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now we're going to talk about smartphones. They've become such an essential modern tool for messaging, browsing, and yes, even what they're designed for, making calls.
And the number of apps created specifically for smartphones has risen exponentially, allowing the devices to be used for multiple purposes ranging from shopping to entertainment and even to health.
Now, as the smartphone evolved, so did the smartphone accessory market, giving rise to a new wave of what's called accessories that are part of a smartphone app and part accessory.
Now, these are devices that can be connected to a smartphone to enhance the user's experience.
So for more, we have our Yulian joining us live in the studio to give us a preview of some of these new gadgets.
Hello, Lian. You have quite an array of items there on the table for us today.
Hi, guys. Good evening. I did bring a number of items here so you guys can get a better idea of what this smartphone accessory really is. Now, all of these devices can be connected to your smartphone via Bluetooth. But before we begin, I want Daniel, you to put your left index finger on one of this little white gadget right over here. The sound means it's turning on.
Okay, so it's safe.
And as soon as you put that on, this smart tablet, I brought a tablet because we want our viewers to have a better understanding of what can be seen on the screen. We'll start measuring or start receiving data from that little gadget. And it's going to take about a minute, so we'll just leave you be just for now.
Okay.
So this little device is collecting data of Daniel's health, is it?
Right.
All right.
I'll tell you more in detail when the data all comes in. But so I did bring some devices here, but I also went out to Seoul to look at the stores and see what kind of accessories there are out there and the reason behind this growing trend. So let's take a look.
This mini CCTV can be placed in your home and will send live feeds directly to your smartphone.
It's a product targeted at working moms who can keep their eye on their kids no matter where they are. And as there are an increasing number of single men and women who keep pets at home, this can be used to watch over their dogs via their smartphones.
This gadget here can be used as a laser pointer for presentations once it's plugged into the audio jack of a mobile device. Smartphone accessories have evolved from cases and protective films to devices that serve multiple purposes.
We sell USBs and external hard drives that can be connected to smartphones to give it more storage space, and cables that allow HD footage to be played from your smartphone on a TV monitor.
The rise in the smartphone penetration rate naturally led to a boom in the smartphone accessory market, with its market value expected to reach nearly $2 billion by 2015. But there's still a place for the more old-fashioned accessories. More than half of the smartphone accessories market is dominated by cases, a third on protective films, while about 11% is taken up by various smartphone gadgetry. Experts say, however, that it is this gadgetry, which includes accessories that converge hardware and software of the smartphone, that's expected to grow significantly in the coming years.
As there are an increasing amount of applications that allow users to do various things, consumers want to make better use of these features by connecting them to different hardware that can be used simultaneously with applications.
It's a trend, he says, that's a win-win for both consumers who can make better use of their smartphones and companies who can more easily enter the smartphone market.
Companies do not have to bother coming up with an operating system or a smartphone device to enter the smartphone market. Anyone can enter by coming up with a simple application and a sub-device that goes along with it.
So the demand for consumers and producers are there. He says the key is for these companies to figure out the hidden needs of these consumers and create applications and hard devices to cater to those needs.
I see. Very interesting. I think my minute is up, right? So I can relax and get out of my Zen zone and stop thinking happy thoughts, and I'll remove it right now? Okay.
It did receive all the data into this tablet PC now, and you can hear a picture of the heart, which shows you the health level of your heart from on a scale from very bad to very good, and you're in right between normal and good, so I'm thinking that's a good sign. And then there's also the stress level, and you're pretty much stressed, right between free and high, so right in between that level. So this is a health device that people can carry when they're traveling or whatnot to keep their health in check. So next, let's go on, move on onto this little white gadget right over here, and I'm just gonna turn this on. It's actually a mini printer. And what it can do is wirelessly, it connects to your smartphone via Bluetooth again. And as soon as I press this little application right here and pick one of our photos that we took right before our show, which is, let me just find it really quick. So this is the photo of us right before the show that we took, and I'm gonna just send this directly to our mini printer right over here, and it's gonna start printing right away. And it's gonna take about a minute or so as well for it to fully come out. So.
And look, we're seeing a photo coming out of that device already.
Right, already. Well,
right, I mean, it's convenient to have those pictures in your smartphones and whatnot, but nothing beats having it in a hard copy.
Right, and
being
remember,
able to hold it.
Back in those days, we had to carry around Polaroids, which are very bulky and heavy, and this, gets away that trouble.
Well, I'd like to see that photo of us. And yeah, I don't know if our viewers can see this, but it's pretty good in quality, and the color is nice, the resolution is nice, and it's just the right size to carry in a wallet or whatnot, right?
Right.
So it's a very friendly and very, I guess, convenience device to have our photos.
And very quick. It got printed in less than 20 seconds, maybe.
So it looks like the accessory, and here that's a combination of application and accessory. It's there are different accessories that I guess better our lives in different aspects, and I'm sure the market is growing too. So what's the outlook like for this accessory market?
Right, well, experts say that as we become more and more integrated to our smartphones, it's inevitable that these smartphone accessories, the market for them will grow eventually. But the important thing to note here is I'm sure you guys are well aware of wearable technology that's also emerging these days. As you guys are well aware of, there's the Samsung smartwatch or the Google Glass. Now, those devices also fall under these smart accessories because they cannot be a separate entity of their own. They have to be connected to your smartphone to work. But once these devices catch on, experts say they will most likely become a separate market of its own, and smartphone accessories, the market will exist as a separate entity because they obviously serve specific purposes like printer or like keeping your health in check. So.
The accessory market is definitely going to be growing much more, expanding in the future, and hopefully we'll be able to see much more creative things, I guess, connecting to our smartphones and making our lives easier.
And we look forward to Yurian, you bringing us more updates and more interesting gadgets for us here in the studio next time, real soon.
No problem. I'll be doing that.
It's time now to get a check on the weather conditions with our Michelle Park. Michelle, this week it felt pretty long to me.
I couldn't agree more, Daniel.
I think this is it's the rain that really pulled us down this week.
Yes, Kanyang, but unfortunately we are expecting more rain to come until Saturday. So for those of you who've always wanted to sleep in or even spend more time with your family, it might be a good weekend for you. But unfortunately, for those of you who have plans outside on a Friday night, you should have an umbrella handy because there's going to be pouring rain into the night, and this nationwide precipitation will continue until Saturday. For more details on today's weather, going over to our forecast. Seoul starts off the morning at 21 and reaches 25 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Daegu and Busan will peak at 26 and 27 degrees respectively. And down onto Jeju Island, you'll see slight rain and a lot of clouds, and Dokdo and Mangkeumgang should stay on the cooler side. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park, and have yourself a wonderful evening.
And that's all from us for this hour. Thank you for watching. This has been Daniel Che.
And I'm Moon Gon-young. Thank you as always for being here with us. Enjoy the rest of your evening and the weekend. And we'll see you right back here Monday night. Good night.